Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Chimera Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, well, I'm going to be talking about cards that I refuse to use. I thought that was a pretty clever title when it comes to, it rhymed. Hey, cool. But on this episode, I'm going to be talking about cards that, yes, are within my budget. Yes, are incredibly legal, are legal in Commander. They are not banned in Commander. But yet, I still will not play with them for one reason or another. So let's jump into it. And let's talk about my first example, which is Perplexing Chimera. Now, this card is incredibly interesting. It's a really cool card, a very well-designed card. A 3/3 enchantment creature Chimera for 4 and a blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may exchange control of Perplexing Chimera in that spell. If you do, choose 2 cards for the copy of the spell. This card can be obnoxious. It can kind of grind games to a halt in some ways where no one's casting anything, or it can also just lead to pretty crazy things happening where it's like, oh yeah, cool, I'll take that. Okay, cool, I'll take that. Oh, you take that. Okay, you take that. Okay, get back to me. Okay. This card is obnoxious. The category I put under this one is just simply obnoxious. This card is very obnoxious to play under. And yes, I have considered actually playing with it in certain decks. It would actually be pretty cool in certain decks and what it can do. That being said, again, just kind of the atmosphere that this sets at the table completely changes the entire game, and it just changes it, I don't believe, for the better. I mean, in my Giganta deck, that is one that I considered it for, where all I want to do with Giganta essentially is, with that deck, just make copies of creatures and maybe even populate those copies, and just think about what would happen if I didn't give this Chimera away until I had like 6, 7 copies of it, and then all of a sudden players are just casting spells and I'm just like, yeah, I'll take that. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, I'll take that. Oh, we'll take that. Okay. And then just trying to figure out just the order of things when it comes to another player casting a spell, then someone else with their Perplexing Chimera utilizing it, and then this one. How in the world does that work? It can get complex, it can get confusing, it can get annoying. This card, again, just simply obnoxious, I think is a good way to put it. It is a budget card, it is completely legal, but it is one that I personally will not be playing. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be playing with it, but I guess I should say, depending on the play group, depending on those LGS, keep in mind just kind of how this might affect the game and how it might affect other players as well. Again, Commander is a social format. Just talk. If you're not sure if players are okay with playing with this card, or if it's going to kind of draw the ire of the table, maybe ask about it ahead of time, okay? Moving on. This one's kind of just a more broad category of chaos cards. Yeah, I mean, Perplexing Chimera is kind of chaotic, but this one is more so just completely chance, like Scrambleverse. This is just a completely chance card. It's like, you know what? We were playing this game. Now all of a sudden, none of that matters. You know what does matter? Just whoever rolls dice better, essentially. Or I guess flip coins. Sorcery for 6 red. For each non permanent, choose a player at random. Then each player gains control of each permanent for which they were chosen. Untap those permanents. Yeah, this is basically, again, just, hey, 8 mana. Whatever's on the board. Again, that is not a land. It does say non-land, luckily. But still, whatever else on the board, hey, yeah, you have the best position. It doesn't matter anymore. Now, at this point, it's just whoever just wins the most coin flips, essentially, is going to get the best board position. Crazy things can happen with this. Obviously, again, the game just didn't matter up until this point. Now, all of a sudden, this is what matters. This just changes the entire game. I personally, again, this is a legal card. There are plenty of Commander players out there that love Chaos decks. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm saying that I personally do not like to build them. I do not like to play them because, well, yeah, sure, it can be kind of fun, but also just, I don't know. I like the game just kind of being in my control versus just the control of the chaotic fates, essentially. So moving on, in a similar way, Warp World, this one is, for a couple of reasons, this one's chaotic, and also this one takes forever to resolve. So, like, you're just going to be sitting there forever trying to make this work. 51 cents, again, legal card, very cheap. Sorcery for 8 mana. Each player shuffles all permanents they own in their library, reveals that many cards to the top of their library. So puts all artifact, creatures, land cards reveal this way into play, then all enchantments into play, the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. Essentially, hey, again, we are basically not restarting the game, but we are saying, you know what, how many things did you have? Cool, you get that many things into play. If you actually hit those things. I mean, if you hit like instant sorceries, those are just, you don't get anything essentially. I mean, I guess you're revealing until you hit, so you're still going to hit. Never mind. Basically, this again is just say, you know what? Instead of it being whatever this game we were playing, let's just roll the dice and see who hits the best things off the top. And again, if you're hitting things with ETBs, have fun resolving all those ETBs. So, this is a card that can be so chaotic, so game disrupting that it can just, again, be one that I will never probably touch. In a somewhat similar way, the Great Aurora. This one, many players might actually know about because green, yeah, has a chaotic card in it as well, apparently. Source for 9 mana, 6 green. And again, you are in green, so you can probably ramp pretty quickly to get to this if you want, though you're probably going to wait to actually utilize it till everyone's set up. Each player shuffles all the cards from their hand, all permanents they own in their library, then draws that many cards. Each player may put any remaining cards from their hand onto the battlefield, exile it. Again, it's kind of like a game reset in a way, but you might get a certain amount of lands into play, you might get more lands into play, you might get less lands into play. Yeah, it's just kind of like, hey, you know what you're doing? Let's just stop doing that. This board doesn't matter. Now what does matter essentially is, yeah, what you get into play off the top of your library, how many lands you're getting to play, and yeah, you got a new hand. Cool, have fun with that. Again, complete reset, things like this, not complete, even just partial resets, again, can just be so disruptive that unless I'm playing like a joke deck that my friends or, you know, those in my LGS I've warned about ahead of time, yeah, it's not going to be welcome with certain players out there. Next up, complete reset. Actually, I did an entire deck around this card in kind of a jokey way. Again, this was like I think it was a Lose Your Friends deck, essentially. But yeah, World Purge. This is a card that is pretty gross. Sorcery for 8 mana in total for Azorius. I had to make sure I counted that correctly. Return all permanents to owner's hands. Each player chooses up to 7 cards in their hand, then shuffles the rest of the library. Empty all mana pools. Again, basically a reset. This one, again, makes it so that, unlike Upheaval, this one you can't just like float mana so you can get ahead of your opponents essentially and finish out the game. This one's more so, yeah, unless you had like a bunch of Fiend Hunter type effects, which I think is that's how I built that, where you have like things exiled and kind of held in exile until that other thing goes away. Yeah, this is going to say, you know what, we're just bouncing everything. Everyone gets a new hand. We're starting the game over, except for life totals, essentially. So yeah, a complete reset like this one is definitely something that, unless I was making a joke deck that I was going to play with friends that knew it was coming, or that that would know that it would be just a fun joke, essentially, yeah, I'm not going to be playing something like this. So again, budget. It is budget friendly. It is kind of obnoxious though, so this is one I'm not going to be playing with. Again, not banned, but other similar effects like this one are banned for a reason. Speaking of which, hey, Sunder. Also a budget card. Again, I should mention that even if they don't show up, I think there's like 1 or 2 that show up slightly over, but they show under budget as well on other sites as well. They're around $1 or less than $1 budget for me, essentially. Sunder is one that is, well, technically not land destruction, and that's kind of the category of this one. It's not land destruction. It's not land destruction. Sunder is an instant for 5 mana. Bounce all lands back to owner's hands. Basically land destruction. Now, yeah, you can overturns, get your lands back into play, or maybe you've got, you know, if you're actually playing this card, maybe you've got ways to dump your lands back into play. Yeah, other players might not. You're essentially resetting, again, a valuable resource, the most valuable resource, the most needed resource, lands in Magic, essentially. So you're resetting that, and this is just 5 mana instant speed. Just, surprise! Goodbye, everyone's lands. Yeah, that can be quite obnoxious and something that not a lot of players out there might not appreciate. Again, land destruction is kind of one of those taboos in Magic, and yes, this technically isn't one. It might be budget, it might not be banned, but it's one that I'm not going to be utilizing. Another one that is, land destruction, but also not. Fall the Thran. Actually, I had to make that decision. I made a Tom Bombadil deck. I haven't seen that episode. Make sure you check it out at some point. And this was definitely a decision point. I was like, yeah, Fall the Thran is a very budget-friendly card. Not going to use it, but it is a very budget-friendly card. It's the first lower counter destroy all lands. So, yep, it's just a way to say, you know what? Every single land is gone. Now, this one, yes, you can convince others like, oh, I'm replacing lands. It's fine. Hey, second and third lower counters, each player returns 2 land cards to the rear of the battlefield. That is nowhere near enough. I mean, even if both of those happen, cool. Everyone gets back 4 lands. What if we were at 10 before that? You're just resetting, you're completely resetting the game to start, essentially, with that. And then, yeah, a slight rebuild, I guess, but also not fully. And, of course, there's ways to ensure that this doesn't even happen. Like, you could, like, float mana and then be like, oh, okay, lands are gone. Cool, I'll bounce this back to my hand. Now I'm not getting the second or third lower counter. And then all of a sudden, yeah, the lands are just gone. And I also have this back in my hand. So if I can, replay it at some point, cool, that happens. Or, Tom Bombadil hits us off the top, and then you get other crazy things going on. Yeah, Fall the Thran is one that I did have this decision point recently. Like, yeah, technically, again, it would go well in that deck. You probably are going to get more value out of it than your opponents because you're going to take out all their lands. You've got other ways to get value. Again, Tom Bombadil can get things off the top of your library for free, so you can put yourself ahead of your opponents. But still, yeah, just not, it's not for me. So again, even though it is budget, even though it's not banned, Fall the Thran is not a card that I'm really looking to play probably ever. And then we got Targeted Hate with cards like a Choke. This card is, well, it can be just a terrible card in your deck. If you're not playing against anyone that has any islands, this is awful. This is a terrible card. Enchantment for 3 mana in total, 2 and a green. Islands untapped with controls on tap steps. But if you are playing against a mono blue player, they're just shut out of the game, essentially. And they're not shut out of the game. I mean, yeah, you've got mana rocks. You've got, ways to, just save your mana up, I guess, save your lands. But still, this can just be an obnoxious card that, again, can just completely whiff. So I wouldn't include it just because of that also, but it can completely whiff. And also, yeah, you're just shutting down one player just because you're utilizing this low to the ground enchantment. Not for me. Next up, Flashfires. A sorcery for 4 mana in total, 3 in a red, destroy all planes. Yeah, again, kind of a similar way. This is like targeted hate against, say, yeah, you know, your friends got like their favorite mono white deck, and you're like, cool, all right, ha ha ha. Boom, all your planes are gone. Now you're out of the game. Cool. So yeah, not a card that I personally will be using. It's 14 cents, incredibly budget friendly. There's other ones like this that, like, I think Boyle's another one that might not be as budget friendly, but there's other ones that just like destroy basically just one type of land. Yeah. Even though it's not full land destruction, it might be full for one player. So yeah, just not a kind of card that I'm going to be running anytime soon. And yeah, that's the list. For some reason I thought there was going to be another one, so I scrolled down a little bit. It wasn't there, but anyways, this is my list for cards that I refuse to use. Again, cards that are even within my budget, again, less than $1. But yeah, cards that, even though they're not banned, they're budget friendly. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should. And I think that is an example. It's a valuable lesson throughout life, and also a valuable lesson in Commander that, well, you're going to have to learn probably a couple times. And I'm still learning that lesson again and again and again. Actually, another episode I'm going to be working on here in a little bit kind of about that too. But yeah, learning that, hey, maybe just because your Selenia Dark Angel deck, Mitch, you know, really would benefit from having 15 board wipes, you probably shouldn't do that. Even though that's probably the actual, you know, most efficient thing to do, the best thing for the deck, it's not the best thing for the play experience for, you know, everyone else. So, and I'm sorry, if there's a Mitch out there who also has a Selenia deck, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to myself in the past, which, yeah, there we go. Anyways, comment below your thoughts on all of these. What cards do you refuse to use? Let me know that in the comments below. Of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.